well, thank you for that introduction, and thank you all for sticking around. I'm really excited to give this particular talk because this is the first time me or anyone has talked about this new species. And it's particularly exciting to do it here in Chico because there's a little bit of history associated with this taxon, and Chico plays a great role, and I'll explain that in just a little bit. So before I start my talk, you might all be thinking, gosh, what is this Aphyllon business, one? Or you might be thinking, uh-oh, we've got another taxonomist standing up here. Or you might be thinking, this is kind of interesting, because new names can give us a better understanding of the diversity that is already out there. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. That's something that's just happened this year. And then I'm going to talk about some phylogenetic research I've done into a species complex in Aphyllon that looks at cryptic host-specific lineages. So there's a lot of new species there that seem to be associated with particular hosts, but they really kind of all look the same, and some of them still all look the same to me. So, and finally, an example of one of these, which is actually quite morphologically distinct, a new species that's parasitic on Galium that's quite widely distributed throughout California and Oregon. So let me introduce you to this whole concept of Aphyllon, and the take-home message here is that Orobanche is not a monophyletic group. And so here in blue you can see what we've kind of traditionally called Orobanche, and the history of that comes from a monograph written in 1890 by the German Günther von Beck. And so he lumped all these things together, but since then we've come to see that there's these other genera that are very different nested within there. And in fact, the Europeans who have the real claim to the genus Orobanche have already split this genus up, but there hasn't been names available for the New World taxa. Nobody has really done that. So that's really what this paper that just came out talks about. So you can see here's the Old World members and then the New World members, which you are all familiar with in the field. And so here are a few pictures. Here's the New World Orobanche, now Aphyllon. This is Aphyllon cooperi from the desert in Southern California. Here's what is a real Orobanche, and then this here is one of these nested genera from Asia, which of course looks very different. So if you want to read more about this, and I kind of explain the rationales and how to tell these different groups apart, you can take a look at this open access paper in the journal Phytokeys. And so that brings us to the name Aphyllon, which is really, it's not a new name, it's an old name that was first described for Aphyllon uniflorum, and then applied broadly to all of the North American taxa by Asa Gray back in the 1800s. So if you actually look back in the literature, you'll see a lot of references, a lot of papers talking about the ecology and the taxonomy and the floristics of Aphyllon, and I've listed 3 of those here. So here's the same tree that you saw before, just with the revised taxonomy, which is Aphyllon. So there's 2 groups: section Aphyllon, which includes Aphyllon uniflorum and Aphyllon fasciculatum, which I'll be focusing on for the rest of my talk. And then this other section, Monophyletic, which includes pretty much everything else that you'd be familiar with. And this paper also has a whole list of names and everything, so you can take a look at that for more information. But moving forward to some of the real new biological discoveries, I want to talk a little bit about these 2 species complexes, Aphyllon uniflorum and Aphyllon fasciculatum, that are found throughout North America. You can see the distributions here. In purple is Aphyllon uniflorum, and which actually has kind of an odd disjunct distribution from Eastern North America, Western North America, and then these populations in the Aleutian Islands. And then Aphyllon fasciculatum. Again, these are in the broad sense, kind of the traditional species names, and as I'll explain later in this talk, there are many more than 2 species in this group. Some of you probably have already suspected this, because if you have seen these in the field, you've seen a tremendous amount of morphological diversity. So all of these pictures here are from one single taxonomic species, Aphyllon fasciculatum, and you see they come in different colors, the corollas are different, shapes and sizes, different numbers of flowers, different habitats, and so perhaps it's not really a surprise that there's more than one thing in here. In particular, I want to point out these nice tall, long pedicelled yellow flowers because that is the new species that I'll be talking about. So people have looked at some of the morphology and have tried to partition that variation, and there are some taxa that aren't recognized currently for some of these for some of this diversity, but it hasn't really ever stuck. And I think one of the reasons for that is that it's the key to unlocking this group is to look at the host specificity. So in addition to having large geographic distributions, very large morphological variation, there's also a very wide variety of host breadth in both of these species. So this is here is a cladogram of all of the angiosperms, so all the flowering plants, and I've highlighted in different colors the different clades that you see extant hosts. And so for one species, you'll find multiple families that are really not entirely that closely related across angiosperms, although mostly in the asterids. And actually, one thing I'm really interested in is I actually just got an email the other day of someone who had talked about populations of Aphyllon uniflorum that are on a host that I wasn't aware of. So there's a lot of work to do, and if you see these things out in the field, I'm always interested in what they're growing on and trying to figure some of that out. So I ran a phylogenetic study, used several different molecular markers from different regions of the genome, chloroplast data, nuclear data, and these are the results. So we remember those two species. There's a lot of really well-supported structure within those two taxonomic species. Also, interestingly, Aphyllon fasciculatum is not monophyletic. So uniflorum is nested within that species, with these populations all sharing a common ancestor with a more recent common ancestor with the uniflorums than the rest of the fasciculatums. And I've kind of already let the cat out of the bag on this one, but their host preferences explain this phylogenetic structure extremely well. So there's Aphyllon uniflorum, which here now you can see there's two different names that I've applied. There's already a name available, Aphyllon purpureum, or you may have also heard of Orobanche uniflora subspecies or variety occidentalis. That's the same thing as this clade here, and that's the Western, kind of the Western version that you all are familiar with. The Aphyllon uniflorum is restricted to the eastern United States, although there are a couple of odd populations in southwestern British Columbia and also the Aleutian Islands. So that was something really unexpected. But the take-home message from this is, you have all of these lineages, most of which don't have names yet. And that's something that I'm still continuing to work on, and so there's going to be a lot of new developments coming in the next few years. And a lot of these things are in California. So all of the plants that were collected in California that I used in this study are highlighted in yellow. And in particular, for the remainder of this talk, I'm going to focus on a particular taxon here that my collaborators and I have just described as a new species, Aphyllon epigalium. And so this is, the manuscript is still in the process of being published with Madronio, but it should be out sometime in the spring. So I think last we heard Matt Ritter said that it would be out in around April or May. So watch for that. And that's why you won't actually see the name printed up on the talk, but just a little sneak peek on that. So the interesting thing about this species is that it's very distinct from Aphyllon fasciculatum, with its long pedicels and its color, and of course its host. And you might be thinking, well, why hasn't somebody described this before? It looks pretty different. And it turns out that there have been earlier botanists who have collected these things and looked at them and then never really got around to looking at that variation. And just in the process of this project, I've talked to a lot of people nowadays that say, oh yeah, that looks really weird, and I don't know, it doesn't look at all like what we've been calling it. So finally we have a name for this thing. This picture on the left is a collection that was made by Jepson in 1915. And you can just read for yourself here. He notices it kind of has these intermediate characters. But the phylogenetic information is really strong that this is not any sort of hybrid, that this is it's just a separate species that has intermediate characters. It was first collected actually in the hills of Butte County, says the label, in the late 1800s, in the 1870s or 80s. And then the connection with Chico is actually back in the early 1970s. There was a master's student here, Karen Cox, who wrote her thesis on this group, the uniflorum fasciculatum group. And she actually had, in her thesis, she described this as a separate subspecies. And unfortunately, she never got around to publishing it until now, and she's on this paper with us, which is really cool and exciting, because she has left botany years ago, and unfortunately wasn't able to make it to this meeting. So you guys are probably all interested to know how can I recognize this thing in the field. And so I just want to go through in my last 3 or 4 minutes a few of the distinguishing features about it. So of course the host on Galium, a number of different species of Galium is the most obvious thing that distinguishes it from its other two close relatives here, as you can see in these pictures. It has long pedicels, 10 to 30 centimeters long, which is often longer than you'll see in fasciculatum or Herbarium. It has 2 to 4 flowers per stem, so again, that's another intermediate character. And in this cluster here, of course, there are several different stems, which is why it looks like there's more flowers. The corolla is yellow, and the calyx lobes are narrowly triangular instead of more filiform in the Herbarium. This is a little bit about the ecology, where you can expect to find this. It's found mostly in montane areas in California and Oregon, so from the north, from the coast range, all the way up to northern California, up into the Cascades, and then also down the Sierra Nevada. And so you can see several pictures here. Here's with the host. Here's a picture of its typical habitat in the Sequoia-Denman Grove. More kind of part sun, part shade, and more open understories. In mixed conifer forest or different types of conifer forests. Down here, there are some populations in Southern California that are particularly interesting, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. But you can see sometimes they're in this is this really interesting little population in this big cone pine or big cone Doug fir little grove that's set in Chaparral in the Santa Ynez Mountains. So it's this little habitat island that we found it in. There's also been a collection from the subalpine region in Lhasa National Park, up on Galium Grayanum, way much higher than it's usually found. So that's a really interesting specimen that is in the Chico Herbarium. And then this picture is from Cleveland National Forest, again in Southern California, and this arrow is pointing to this charred log. And there's a little discussion that we have in our paper about the potential role of fire in the distribution and the ecology of this species. And it's a little bit unclear whether fire promotes or inhibits the growth of this species, and it would be a really great thing to continue to study. And then of course, this is a herbarium specimen that you saw on the first slide, showing that direct root-parasite connection. So this is the host root, and then this is where the parasite starts. So it turns out that there's not only one thing here, there's two things here, two subspecies which we described. One, which we're going to call the subspecies Epigalium from northern California and Oregon, which is what you've been seeing pictures of so far. And then there are these odd populations, these disjunct populations in southern California that we're going to recognize as subspecies Notocalifornicum. And these are quite rare. We've only been able to find 5 records of this taxon in the herbarium. Some of which I was able to resurvey last year, and they're still extant, at least the ones I was able to revisit. And they also show good, here's the same phylogenetic tree you saw before, and just to show that there's also molecular support. So the northern one is this brighter yellow one on the top, and the southern species is only found on Galium andrewsii, and is a more pallid color. And so, I know this is kind of a busy slide, and there's lots to see on here, but basically these are just some of the key ways to tell them apart. Corolla color I've talked about, the corolla lobes, the shape of them, the length of the corolla. The northern subspecies has a slightly larger corolla on average. The flower presentation, whether it's the mouth of the open flower is presented at more a 45-degree angle or more horizontally. And then finally, the host plant is also a difference, kind of undermining or underscoring the importance of host specificity here. So again, look for this paper coming out soon, and I'd like to thank all of my collaborators who are co-authors on some of the research I've presented, all sorts of people that have helped with laboratory and field assistance, countless herbaria, and of course these funding sources. And thank you for your attention, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.